All right, welcome back, everyone. Now, this particular session, we're going to talk about a protocol called Virtual Trunking Protocol, VTP. That in the new exam, really, you'll see it, but in the books, they don't really talk much about it. And it didn't go away. So you really need to know about VTP. What is VTP? VTP is the one that allows you to create your VLANs, that maintains naming consistency of your VLANs across your switch network, updates all your other switches. So VTP does a lot of things, and we need to know how to tweak VTP. Let's take a look. This is a lot from previous. Let's take a look at the VTP. And we'll go from there. Show VTP stat or status. Stat for short. Now, what are we looking at here? The version of VTP, the very first thing, the version, VTP version, the first line, you're not really too concerned about. I believe I said this in earlier lessons. The configuration revision, that is something that you want to pay attention to. Because the higher that number, okay, it's the more current information. Now you can always reset it by changing the mode of the switch. You can change that, or by changing the domain name of the switch. As long as you do different things to the VLAN database, it'll change that number. You can reset it back to 0. All right? But this is important because the higher revision number, and I'll say it again, the higher revision number means the more current information, so it will update all the other switches, with that information, even though it may not be information you want. Keep thinking about that. Maximum VLAN supported locally, only 255. Even though you see you have VLANs 2 to 1001, really, that you can create. But if you do try to create beyond that locally, it's going to give you an error. It's not going to allow you to do it. All right, it shows you the number of existing VLANs and the operating mode of the switch. All switches by default are operating as VTP server. What does that mean? That means that allows you to create VLANs, to name VLANs, to change VLANs, to delete VLANs. You can manipulate the VLAN database if you are a VTP server. The other mode is client mode. Now, also the server updates everybody, obviously, all right, and receives updates and sends updates. Client mode does the same exact thing, it just can't create, change, rename, delete VLANs. So if you're in a client mode, you can't do anything with the VLANs. You just can send, receive updates, but you can't change anything. You can't manipulate the VLAN database. A VTP domain name. This is something that the virtual trunking protocol, really, just like STP doesn't come alive unless there's redundant links, well, VTP, virtual trunking protocol, is really used when you have multiple VLANs. If you're only using one VLAN, you really don't need to worry about VTP. But if you have multiple VLANs, more than one VLAN, you have 2 VLANs, then you can go ahead and start dealing with VTP. With VTP domain name, you can create a VTP domain name, and then your other switches must be in the same domain as you are, so they can receive updates. If you have 2 switches, or 3 switches like we have in this lab, and they all have different VTP domain names, what's going to happen is you're going to get a VTP domain mismatch constantly. Going up, 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 up. It won't even allow you to type. Okay? So definitely you want to make sure you're in the same VTP domain name. And it's not like a domain in DNS, like you got to say cisco.com or anything like that. Just a name. VTP domain LAS, VTP domain, whatever you want to call it. But all those switches will operate in VTP domain. Now, we always have that sneaky individual. That sneaks in with their switch, right? And plugs your switch in. And if you didn't set any passwords to your domain, it'll update that switch with your information. That's something you don't want. So definitely you will want to have to, you would like to or have to create VTP passwords as well for that particular domain. Now you do that on a switch by switch basis, which is, you can imagine the administrative headache that would be. All right, so now for us, we're just going to do VTP domain names. We're not going to be doing passwords because, again, it's a simulator. It's more of a pain to then try and take it out. So you need to pay attention to that. This right here, the configuration revision, 1, the operating mode, 2, and the VTP domain name, 3, are key things that you need to look at when you're going through your examination through the switching portion of it. It is important. And this print screen that you're looking at right here is extremely important. You need to know this command, show VTP status, so you can bring this up to be able to answer questions. And down here is how you get modified from other switches, all right, that send you their information. So you need to make sure that you're able to pull up this information and take a look at that. Because remember, the commands within the switching, you're using we did at the beginning, show MAC address table, show VTP status, show spanning tree, show CDP neighbor detail, show in trunk. All these different commands you need to be aware of. So when you look at information of the switch. All right, so VTP though is commonly confused with trunking a port. Trunking a port and VTP, even though it's called virtual trunking protocol, does two different things. The virtual trunking protocol, what it does is sends information only through trunk ports. Okay? So if you're using more than one VLAN, you need to have this. Now, the operating mode, there's, people say leave them all as servers. Some people say have one server, the rest of them clients. I'm one of them. You have one server, machine, or switch, and then the rest are all clients. Now there's another operating mode that I didn't say, which was transparent. Transparent mode is exactly like server mode, but it doesn't share its VLAN database information. It will not accept, it won't copy the updates from other server switches into its own VLAN database. It will just forward the information across. That's it. They're usually used for remote switches. So you have 3 modes that you need to be aware of: server, client, and transparent. But again, this guy right here, this revision number, you're going to see it on multiple questions. Always remember, the higher revision number is a more current information. Therefore, the other switches will accept its updates, but he will not accept anybody else's updates because he's the most current. But he has to be in the same domain as the rest of you. If not, that will be an issue. So VTP is extremely important. Because if I were to change this right now to VTP, because I can create a VLAN, just to show you as an example, config T, VLAN 10, name LAS, right? That's a VLAN. But now look what I'm going to do. I'm going to change the VTP mode to client. And we can verify that by doing do show VTP stat. All right, now we're client. You see the change? Look at the revision number. It changed to 2, right? We created a VLAN. And now I'm client. Now I'm going to try to create another VLAN. VLAN 20. VTP VLAN configuration not allowed when device is in client mode. So really what allows you to create these VLANs is the mode that your switch is in, the operating mode, the VTP operating mode of the switch. So in order to create VLANs, you must be in VTP server mode in order to do that. You can see it right here. All right, so VTP is extremely important. And again, naming consistency, which also means if you have your native VLAN is VLAN 1 over here, but the switch over here, its native VLAN is VLAN 20, you're going to have a mismatch of native VLANs and you're going to run into an issue. That's why you just can't get, all these switches that just came in and you start throwing them out there and you start plugging things in and start configuring. No. There's already got to be a blueprint designed from you on how this infrastructure is going to look like, down to the IP address, the VTP, everything. What's going to be configured, what is your idea, and when it's going to happen. So you just can't put things together. But for your certification, ladies and gentlemen, this screen right here, very important with the revision number and again, the modes and stuff like that. So VTP may not be in the books that you see now, but is most definitely very much alive. As you can see, you can't create a VLAN unless you're in VTP server. And if you don't know about VTP, how would you know how to fix that? So VTP is here to stay, okay? Is here to stay. So again, that's VTP. This is how you look at it. Those are the key points you need to look at. We will be configuring VTP. We will be configuring VLANs. And you're going to see how I do it. By the way, like in the book, I'm going to show you the way I would do, where I would create my VLANs. And then I would manipulate my spanning tree. And then I will create a VTP domain. I won't put a password on it, but I will put a VTP domain and I will change my others to clients. And you see how I'm going to do that in the next lesson. So I'll see you there.